Welcome to the Centralian Profiles, where we profile Centralians from all over the world. And this afternoon, we have with us a Centralian, straight from the US and Palawan, a batch 94 of the College of Nursing, a nurse, a missionary, and a businessman.
Yes.
So good afternoon, Francis, Lara.
Good afternoon, everyone.
So how are you today? What are the things that brought you back to the campus?
Well, it's been so many years since I came back, but today I came back with a very, very special mission, and that mission is basically produced a very powerful story that I wish I knew. When I was here in campus, but that's gonna change. The story of the Hope Vale missionaries who were martyred, but eventually, became inspiration to millions of people.
So you're here for that. So how's your interview going? How's your visit to the Hopevale site? How's your day-to-day here?
Man, the interviews are doing absolutely phenomenal. I mean, the people are just so supportive. I could not ask for more. And the visit yesterday to the site, if there's one word, it's powerful.
Powerful.
I did not expect to shed a few tears. I did, because it was just so. If there is such thing as sacred ground, it was so sacred. Just to put yourself in the position of those missionaries who bled and died on those hills, and because of that, millions of people around the world came to know Christ. And so we're very excited to tell that story. But we came to create a movie, but we're leaving with inspired and transformed hearts. It's very, very powerful.
Yeah, we are excited for this project. Now, what can we look forward to this project of ours, the Hopevale story?
Well, this will be a very, very powerful. This is the vision for this will be a world-class, movie. I mean, CPU is a world-class campus that has produced world-class leaders, and you cannot do anything less than that. So this is gonna be a world-class, globally distributed film. Gonna premiere in different countries, but mostly, it will be just at the level of any Hollywood film.
Okay.
This will be a multi-million dollar budget film, and this will put CPU Hopevale, the Convention Baptist of the Philippines, and Baptists all around the world.
Yes.
And Iloilo on the map.
Wow.
In the world, because it will be a big box office film.
Okay. Will this be this year or next year?
This will be the premiere will be coming out on 2020 of December, and then global distribution will start 2 months after that, February of 2021.
Okay. So we can actually market this with Centralians who will be going back to the campus on February 2020, so they can look forward to December of 2020. So these Centralians who will be here in the campus for our grand alumni homecoming will be excited about this.
Absolutely. I mean, the success of this movie will depend on the amount of people who are champions for it. And I tell you, if you are a Centralian listening to this conversation, you champion this movie not only for your family, but for your community, your churches, your workplaces, your business, wherever you are. I guarantee you, you will inspire a lot of people. You'll be an instrument of inspiration. Lives will be changed, hearts will be changed. You'll be so proud that you are a Centralian, because this is such a powerful legacy and heritage that we have that for so many years seems to have been hidden, even though it wasn't. It just felt like it was hidden, but it wasn't. But you'll be so proud. You watch this movie, you advocate this movie, you champion for this movie. You'll be so proud that you're a Centralian, that you're part of this institution that was started, by these great missionaries. They were martyred, but CPU is their legacy, and all over the world, Centralians are well known. If not for the blood and sweat of these missionaries who came selflessly to our country and build our school, we wouldn't be where we are right now.
Yes. So I believe that what led you to this inspiration to do this movie was, of course, you're a Centralian. So let's go back to your story here in the campus, way back many years ago. Okay, you graduated last 1994, and you were here in 1990, right?
I came here in 1990. Initially, I did not want to be a Centralian, but my dad said, if you want free education, you go to CPU, study nursing, so you can go to the United States. And boy, was I glad that I obeyed my dad, because here in CPU, my faith grew. I became a believer before CPU, but when I came here, it was like being planted in a garden where it's so fertile. And so I grew here, my roots got deeper, my trunk got stronger, and my branches grew a lot of fruits that allowed me to weather the storms of life.
Yes.
And so, that time here, 4 years here, is so not only informative but very transformative, that I'm so proud to have spent 4 years of my life here.
Yeah, so thank God for that. So during that time, your president was still Dr. Pulido, and the campus probably we only have less than 10,000 students right now. We have 14,000 students. Later on, after K to 12, we'll have this full cycle. Probably we'll have 16,000 more students. So how was the campus during that time? Can you still remember that?
Yes, I still remember the campus at that time is so, I would say, there's a lot of spaces that are not built upon with buildings yet. So there's so many places to roam around, and I can still remember the some of the floors of the buildings are still wood from World War II. And I've seen a lot of all these trees that you see now. They're not as big as they are. And so yeah, it was seemed to have been like, was such a huge campus. When you come in, like, wow, this is Central Philippine University. And now it feels like it's smaller because of all the buildings to accommodate all the students. But at that time, it was just so huge, vast of land.
Where was the College of Nursing situated during that time? There was no Loreto Tupas yet building.
No,
It was in the Lopez or in the Franklin?
Franklin.
Right, Franklin Hall.
The hall was the, other side of the Franklin Hall was the nursing
Okay,
building.
what are your fan memories of Franklin Hall and College of Nursing during that time?
I'm not sure if it is fun, but each time there's an exam in that hall, you're like shivering, and you're so anxious, and you go there, and the fun stuff comes when the grades are posted, and you go there and watch your grades and the results of the exam. So that was fun. And one of the powerful memories I have with CPU is this: every day during break time, or either break time or when I come to the campus, students seated on a Half Moon Drive will be just so filled of students sitting, chatting, and then you see yellow booklets.
Yellow booklets.
Those yellow booklets were Four Spiritual Laws, the Campus
Yeah.
Crusade for Christ. And that was the in thing. I mean, like everyone, like I and many of my nursing friends would go there, share our faith, and just proclaim the Word of God in our uniforms.
Yes.
And that was a powerful memory in my mind. But we're not the only one doing that. Many Christian organizations were doing that, and man, I can only imagine the amount of people's lives that were changed. My wife became a believer here through the Christian Emphasis Week,
Oh,
and she has a very powerful story. And if you ask her today, how many percent are you 500% because she stood 5 times
Five
during
times.
seed Christ during that week. Emphasis week. So CPU prepared us very well. As individuals from CPU, I became a missionary with Campus Crusade. Went to China, went to the United States. The legacy that this school, built in me is just so amazing.
Yeah, of course, you know that CPU College of Nursing is the first nursing school in the whole country, the whole Philippines. How was your training during the time that prepared you after your college days? You were a missionary, but you were a nurse also.
Yeah, the training with a CPU and Iloilo Mission Hospital, I would say, is at par, if not one of the best.
Okay.
Like when I went to Manila to be trained in UP, I mean, there's no big difference. When I went to UP PG8 to get my 6 months internship there, things I learned here was so helpful. Uh, when I started working in the United States, and this is a very, very funny story because here in CPU, we were taught how to count the IV with the drops using your watch,
Yeah.
that calculation. In the US, everything is machine. So all you do is to enter the number of drops. You don't calculate, just enter the number of drops, and the machine will regulate it.
Okay.
There was one time in our hospital the power went out,
Oh.
and my nursing coworkers who were never trained on that, they were trained in the US, were wondering how did I make the IV run without the machine. And that's because of the training here.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, absolutely.
So I hope the College of Nursing will continue that kind of training. Okay. Okay. Let's talk about your campus crusade ministry here at CPU. Of course, our campus is so open. We have that religious liberty that you can share your faith to others. What can you say about your experience during those times?
The campus crusade training here was really very, very powerful. And the power of that came by the discipline that we have weekly goals of how many souls we were gonna see reach for the Lord, how many people we will share the gospel, how many will pray to receive Christ, and on a weekly basis, me as well as my wife and many other Campus Crusade nursing students would be involved in our own discipleship groups. So I was actually discipling some of my classmates in Bible studies on a weekly basis, and as a nursing student, I would also lead Bible studies with commerce students, engineering students. So it's just you were trained to really invest your life in other people early on as a believer. I mean, I came here a 1-year-old believer, but then the environment was so conducive for you to grow in your faith, in your practice, your walk with God, and it just created in me a sense of mission. It was here that the missionary heart was developed in me.
Yeah.
It was harvested when I graduated, but it was here. It was here that mission heart, and so that goes all the way back to the Hopevale missionaries. The school was planted, started by the missionary heart of those missionaries, and so the seeds are like us. And I tell you, Neil, I have been to so many countries around the world, share the gospel to so many countries. I have been to India, I have been to China, I have been to Nepal as a missionary, to the Middle East as a missionary, and God knows who among those people became believers through the ministry that the Lord has allowed us to be part of. And you just imagine literally the blood and sweat of the missionaries that was planted here is reaching the world through alumni who have been faithfully impacting other people for Christ.
Yeah.
Both as a career missionaries, or maybe just not maybe just, but or maybe as a marketplace missionaries. They're working, but they are excelling and they're impacting people's lives for Christ where they are.
Yes, 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 yes. And of course, CAW, as you have said, your wife accepted the Lord Jesus Christ during CAW, and you may remember that the venue was, of course, Rose Memorial. And Rose, Francis Rose, is one of the Hopevale martyrs. So that's one of the things that connect us with the missionaries. Now, going back to your college days again, what are some of the teachers that you can still remember, stories or quotes or lessons that you have learned from them that you're still using in your life right now? Or classmates?
Yes. There's quite a few teachers that stood out. The first one was really Ma'am Garingalao from the religious education department.
Nay Miriam.
Yes, she believed in me so much, and she saw me. When I go to mission trips during breaks, I will give her a fundraising letter. She will always give me money, support me to go to mission trips, and imagine the impact of that. The amount of money that she's giving to her student, and then those trips developed in me the heart for missions. And so that's an impact of teacher, that lasted for generations. Where I am now, whether I'm in Palawan or in the U.S., whether I'm direct evangelism and discipleship or business, my sense of mission is there because of professors like her.
Yeah. So,
Another one that stood out is Ma'am Gesto, actually, because she has a peculiar, uh, personality. She's so serious, but she's so down to earth, right? When she's in front of you doing nursing lectures, she's like dead serious. You cannot make a joke or anything. But then outside the class, you talk to her about faith, man, she's like there with you. Like she too would support me. One time she called me, Mr. Lara, we need a nursing student to represent us to the religious committee in the university, and we want you to do it. And you can't say no to Ma'am Gesto. And Ma'am Tomlos is another one.
yeah.
Ma'am Tomlos her faith is just so radiating. When we were in class, she would tell spiritual warfare stories.
Yeah.
My goodness, she would tell those stories about her family. It's just amazing. And another teacher two teachers that really made an impact to me in the nursing side is Mr. Almonares, Jesse Almonares. Is the most kind-hearted man I've ever met, and until now we keep in touch. I just met him a few months ago in Chicago. He's the same great heart for the Lord. He supported me even when I was in China, even when I was in the States studying. He supported me, and even until now, if I don't have money, I should ask for him. He will give me, because he just have that generous heart. And another teacher is Ma'am Carmela Romero. I think she's back
Yeah,
here.
she's back.
Ma'am Romero, she's always been a cheerleader. Even on Facebook, she would always, tell me, Francis, keep, serving the Lord. Do it for His glory. And so those teachers, Ma'am Darlene, I can't remember Ma'am
Yeah,
Darlene. I used to have a crush on one of her IBCF student. I went to Mom Darlene and she said, she's a really good girl. And so and then another one is Ma'am Romarate, si Titit.
Titit, yeah.
Oh my goodness, those teachers. Mom, I'm going to a mission trip. Can you please support me? Oh my goodness. She would always have those money envelope prepared. Mr. Lara, before you leave for the class, come.
Okay.
And then she would give me. So many teachers that are just so supportive, and they may not know it, but they made a huge impact in my life and in my heart and my call as a missionary.
Thank God for those teachers. I remember Manay Miriam Garingala, she's already 88 years old right now. And we went together in Israel last year. That was her dream, And she was able to make it. And Nang Titit, of course, is still here teaching. and the other teachers as well. So thank God for those teachers. And you mentioned about your love life. Okay, what about your love life? You must thank the campus of CPU because you met your future wife in the campus. How did it happen?
Well, I was already leading praise and worship with the weekly fellowship of Campus Crusade, and one day, a cute Chinese girl came in, and she was the talk of the town. Like all these brothers in Campus Crusade would talk about, there's this Chinese girl Jean, and I wasn't paying attention to it. I was just focused on the Great Commission, man. That Great Commission, man. And then so in our brotherhood, they will talk about that, and then boom, when I was leading the fellowship, she came in, and I said, now I understand why people were talking about her. But then a brother was already interested on her, so I stayed away. Right? So I just stayed away. But God, in His mysterious ways, my goodness. So I was assigned to lead a mission trip, and the other brother who likes her was also a team leader. They're supposed to go to Manapla, and I'm going to Kalinog. Right? So I'm the team leader for Kalinog. Well, their team got dissolved, right? Not so many people signed up for that. Mine continued on, and she was transferred to my team.
And the rest is
So
history.
the love story was born out of mission trip.
Okay.
There you go.
Okay.
And we became friends, and we know each other for more than half of our lives now. And as I was teasing earlier, Dr. Robles, but it's really true, we used to date behind the library. Like there's some stairs, there's like emergency exit.
Yeah.
That's where my wife, my girlfriend, not even my girlfriend, we're just
We have to
MU.
you have to put a plaque over there right now.
Yes, we were. We're
Later on.
We're only MU at that time.
Okay.
Makun.
Oh, Makun.
So we were there, and one day I'll bring my kids here and I'll show them. That's where Papa and Mama used to hide.
That's a good story. Okay. So, do you know that, of course, Reverend William Valentine, the love story, I wrote about that last week. And his story also, his love story with his wife, Ina, a nurse, because he got sick. He had a sunstroke in Burma, and he had to go back to the States during that time for hospitalization. And then there he met his wife in the hospital. Yeah, he was so disappointed to go back to the States, and then boom, the hospital door opened, and there was this beautiful lady, beautiful nurse. And later, that was the catalyst in why they went here to Iloilo, and a year later they started Haro Industrial School, now Central Philippine University. So that's the love story behind Haro Industrial School, behind CPU. The same also with your story. Now let's go to your mission trips, your missionary life. How did it happen?
When I graduated from nursing here, in one of a leadership institute of Campus Crusade, I was just like, I knew God wanted me to do something with my life. I wasn't so sure. And at that time, I was also heartbroken because my relationship with my wife, at that time wasn't my wife. There's a mutual understanding. Got cold. So for a year, it was a difficult time. Nothing. And so in one of the events, I knew God is calling me for something. I wasn't quite sure what it is. So one time, there was a worship time, prayer time, and I was just asking the Lord, please let me know what you wanted me to do. I'm just here. I'm ready to do whatever you want to do. And as soon as I was closing my eyes then, and as soon as I lift up my head, because my posture then was I was kneeling, and when I lift up my head, but my eyes still closed, I saw peoples from every nations smiling back at me, and there were children in the background, like playing and happy. And I knew back then that the Lord wanted me to go to the 1040 window countries.
Cool.
Hence, Yahoo started at that time.
Yeah.
My email is still, until now, I'm still using it, crossculture1040 at yahoo.com. I cross cultures to the 1040 window so I can bring the cross to the cultures of the 1040. And from that, I went to Manila, not knowing anyone. I know, it was hard because my dad actually disowned me. He did not want me to become a missionary. My pastor back then here said, you know what, he wanted you to take your nursing boards. Don't go on a mission work first. Work for a year, and after a year, if you're really sure, then go become a missionary. But the conviction was just so strong. This is when they say crazy people rule the world. It is really true.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I was crazy at the time. I was leaving my family. My dad was saying, if you leave here and you don't become a nurse, don't ever come back again. My house. And so, as a Chinese guy, that's tough. Being disowned by your family as a Chinese is tough. And then, my pastor said, if you really want to go, we don't have a blessing for you. We don't want you to raise funds in the church.
Ooh.
So I left Iloilo with just the promise in my heart that God has promised He will provide. I went to Manila not knowing anyone, and in one of the meetings, a lady who was a missionary in China with Campus Crusade heard about my desire to serve God in China. But before that, by the way, before I met her, I was going through the training of Campus Crusade. I have not done my support raising yet. But they were gracious to allow me to go to the training. But then before I even start the training, my oldest brother got an accident in Taiwan. So I was pulled out of the training to take care of my oldest brother because I'm a nurse, took care of him in Taiwan. And in Taiwan, during my days off, I would go around and check out tourist spots. And each time I go to a Taoist temple or a Buddhist temple, I can sense the Spirit telling me, Francis, I want you to reach these people for me. And so when I went back to the Philippines from Taiwan, I knew that God wanted me to go to China. That's my 1040 window piece. And so when I met that old, not old, but older sister, she said, why wait for China? You can serve with the Chinese church here now. So she said, I'll introduce you to my Chinese church. So I went, started serving in the Chinese church. And remember, my support is not done.
Yeah.
One day, this is true story, I got a handbook of church members with their phone numbers and address. Guess what I did? I was like a salesman.
Call center.
I called them like cold turkey, one by one, just telling them I want to serve the Lord, I need funds. Some of them were very gracious, some of them not so gracious. But I continued on because I knew God wants me to go. And so, make the long story short, 5 years I served in Manila. And 5 years later, God provided all that I needed. And, that launched me to China. And my wife joined me there. But we were not married then. After a year, we came back. We got married in Iloilo Trinity Christian Church.
Yeah.
And basically spent the first 3 years of our lives, our honeymoon years, as missionaries in China. And we've seen a lot of baptized members there. We did not baptize them. The local pastors that we work with baptized them. But we will share the gospel with them, befriend them, share the gospel. And then once they, they're committed to the faith, we will invite them for baptism in our bathtub.
Okay.
Because you're not supposed to engage in religious activities as a foreigner in China. So it's in the bathtub. And when so my wife and I got a chance to train local missionaries. These are nurses, doctors who became missionaries.
Wow.
And so go back to those Dr. Valentine, Dr. Rose, all those Hopeville missionaries. The blood and sweat that they put in here literally continued on to the ends of the earth.
Yeah.
And one of my disciples, he was a doctor. He was serving the minorities of China, the Tibetans.
Yeah.
And you can just imagine the people he shared the gospel with, and those people share the gospel to those. One day you will be in heaven,
Yes.
and you'll be like, "Who are these people?"
Mhm.
And you just realize that God, through His Spirit and by His grace, used the lives of the people. All the way from Christ to the 12 disciples, to the martyrs, to us, to the people that we help, and it's just. And when I think about that, I'm humbled
Yes.
that God in His grace would pick someone from Dueñas, a town that the highway doesn't even go through it.
Yeah.
It's a small town.
And popular for Aswang.
There are pilots without a plane, and my grandfather is from China. He came here. He wasn't a believer, and God in His humor, you know, raised up one of his grandkids to go back to China and reach his people.
Wow.
Can you imagine that story? That's a beautiful tapestry, beautiful masterpiece of the Lord. And it just amazes me,
That's a great thing. And thank you for your missionary heart. And I hope Centralians out there will develop this kind of heart also. Now, let's go fast forward to your life in the States. You became a businessman. Now, how did this happen again?
Actually, we went to the States as students.
Students?
Yeah, I
Okay.
went there for my seminary education. I did my master's in Christian leadership
In Bayola.
at Talbot School of Theology in Bayola University, and that in itself is an amazing story of God's grace because, believe it or not, I spent zero dime, uh, and we got our visa in China.
In China.
Can you
Wow.
imagine that? A communist country granting you a visa to study in a seminary in America. That's unheard of.
Yeah,
I mean, if it's not God's hand, I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
You know?
I agree.
So when we reached the U.S., we had $8,000 and 4 suitcases. That's all we had. That $8,000, by the way, are our savings from our wedding, the red envelopes.
Okay.
All right.
Uh-huh.
And we went there, and I finished, and by God's grace, I graduated with highest honors in my master's, and with zero dime, even with extra money for books, and after 3 years, proceeded on to do my PhD. It's put on hold right now. I have to finish my dissertation with Biola School of Intercultural Studies. Used to be School of Missions. My degree is in a PhD in Intercultural Education. And God is faithful. Even that PhD is providing the money. And I'm
Wow.
just amazed how God, provided for all these things. Our cars were donated to us. I would even find a lot of these empty bottles inside the school that people throw away. I collect them and take them to the recycling place so I can buy flowers for my wife.
Trash for cash.
Yes,
For flowers.
yes. And so humble beginning. The car that was donated to us, we drove this from the East Coast to the West Coast. As soon as we arrived the West Coast, the car died.
Oh.
And God is just, God's grace is just there, protecting us, providing for us, and it's just so amazing. I mean, and on our second year, when the support was dwindling, my wife, who did not want to be a nurse in the United States, was challenged to take the boards because I told her, if you don't take the boards, our support is going down. I won't be able to finish. I cannot do nursing because I'm on a student visa. So what she did is she challenged the boards again because of the excellence of the training in nursing here. One shot, she passed it.
Wow.
She got hired. Our green cards were processed, and eventually we became U.S. citizens. The first thing that she and I made sure is that with all the financial blessings that the Lord, we need to support missionaries because we've been there. That we've
Yeah.
been that road, and we know we have a lot of co-workers still in the field in China, in the Philippines.
Mhm.
They don't have as much blessings as we do, but we have been blessed here. So we just started setting aside, funds for that, and the Lord so blessed, continue to bless, and eventually, with my, I kind of hit like a, according to my wife, maybe it's a midlife crisis. In my mid 30s, I was, I was, I was going to work as a nurse
Mhm.
while I'm going through my PhD program, but I was literally dying inside.
Mhm.
And I was asking the Lord, Lord, what is this that I'm feeling? I have no motivation. The pay is good. I get to share Christ with my patients. Um, it's so funny because this is the story that when I was a nurse, because of my missionary heart, I want to share Christ to everyone. And so I was assigned in ICU,
Mhm.
and most of my patients are comatose. All right. So what I do is when it's time to give them a bath,
Mhm.
I close the curtain and then start sharing the gospel while I'm washing them.
Uh-huh.
And
Wow.
sharing the gospel for spiritual loss.
Yeah.
And then I will tell them, Mr. So and so, if you can hear me, and if you would like to have the joy that no one else can take away, I don't know where you will be in the next few days, next few months, but I want you to know that Jesus is waiting for you. If you want to have that joy, that assurance that you will be in a much better place, please, if you can hear me, open your heart right now and pray this prayer with me.
Mhm.
And I would do that so often that my coworkers who are not believers would sometimes speak,
Uh-huh.
"Hey, are you talking to anyone there?" So I was just sharing that, and it's just that's that's our story. And eventually, I was able to got into the business because we knew that our calling is to go back to Asia, whether China or Philippines, and if we just remain nurses, we with no work, no pay. You have to create a business, and that's how I landed into becoming a businessman. And by God's grace, in 7 years of doing business in the United States, it has put us in a position where we can literally retire. My wife retired at age 45
Wow.
as a nurse, and then we moved our family back to the Philippines, to Palawan, because that's where God wants us to build a missionary training center,
Mhm.
and that's where we are right now. And this movie business, uh, this came. I know we need to get going here, but uh, while I was a financial advisor in the United States, um, I met one of our one of a guy who was involved in the movie industry,
Yeah.
and that kind of like ignited my desire. I have always loved movies. I've always been passionate about World War II. My grandfather's United States Armed Forces in the Far East. His son was with him when they were walking the Bataan March,
Mhm.
but his son did not survive Bataan.
Mm.
And I've never knew my grandfather, but I looked like him.
Oh,
When
that's
I
great.
walk down the street in Dueñas,
Uh-huh.
people will tell me, old people say, "There goes Julio,"
Uh-huh.
because I look like my grandfather, and they said he was good looking.
Okay. I,
And
I agree. I
and the
agree.
result was he had three wives, one at a time though.
Okay, okay.
All right, three wives, one at a time. But this movie industry came to me because of my desire to impact more people for the Lord, and then we got introduced to all the people in Hollywood, and then one day I was just praying. I said, Lord, I had kind of like this gut feeling that I felt when I decided to serve you with Campus Crusade, and when I decided to leave nursing to become a financial advisor. This feeling is back again.
Hmm.
But I don't have your word. Am I sure that this is you, or is it just emotions? And one day, 2 Corinthians 5:7 to 9 was the word that the Lord gave. And I've always understood 2 Corinthians 5:7, the old has gone, the new has come. But I have never really closely studied verses 8 and 9, where it says, and I have given you the ministry of reconciliation. And as soon as I realized that truth, God spoke in my heart. He said, I want you to be in the movie industry because I want you to reconcile people, more people for me through that industry.
Wow.
And my wife, I turned to her, you're married. You cannot just do your direction on
Yeah.
your own. You ask my wife, and she said, I haven't heard from God. Kind of like the same thing when I told her that God told me you'll be my wife. And she said, I haven't heard from God.
Okay.
This time I told her, God wants us to be in the movie industry. She said, I haven't heard from God. I said, so Lord, I will pray. And then one day when December 31, we were on Philippine Airlines all the way back to LA. We got upgraded to business class. While she was enjoying the business class, God gave her His word, Isaiah 43:19. Behold, I am creating new things. Do you not perceive it? I will make streams in the desert. As soon as my wife shared it with me, I said, boom, God spoke to you. And she said, you're absolutely right. And we're here having this interview with Hopevale. And I tell you, I literally cry almost every day. Just the power of the story, not only for the sacrifice, but also the thought of millions will come to know Christ because of this movie.
Yeah, thank you very much, Francis. Before we end, anything that you would like to say to the next generation of Centralians out there and all Centralians all over the world?
If you're a Centralian out there, you are in CPU right now, or you are all over the world, first and foremost is please, please, please walk with God. Because, I'm not that old, but I've seen the world. I've traveled to so many countries. I have worked as a missionary. I've worked as a businessman. It all boils down to one thing: your own relationship with God. Nothing else matters. So walk with God. Second, impact people's lives by inspiring them with your life. Impact them for Christ. And third, be proud of your heritage as a Centralian, because not so many schools around the world has started strong and is still going strong, and I believe with all my heart will finish strong until Christ comes again.
Thank you very much, Francis. There you have it, friends. Francis Lara, a man after God's own heart. May God bless us all.